Benjamin Spock says that sex education, including its spiritual component, should be part of a wide health and moral education from kindergarten through grade 12, ideally carried out harmoniously by parents and teachers. Our population is rising, and with that comes a number of new considerations, not the least of which is the importance of sex education. Adolescents, regardless of social-economic status, should get sex education both in school and at home, highlighting the discrepancy between the rich and the poor in this area. Filipino teenagers should acquire good sex education because this is where they may learn about sex-related subjects. Understanding the many parts of sex education will aid in raising self-awareness in one another. In terms of understanding the sex education and its elements, there is an inequity between the rich and the poor. They have access to information about sex education because they are privileged and which they do not value what was given to them. Meanwhile, the disadvantaged lack understanding about sex education because they lack the tools to acquire it and do not have the opportunity to learn it. In these instances, equity should be established and encouraged because all individuals, regardless of socioeconomic status, have the right to learn and understand all aspects of sex education. The Philippines' alarming rates of adolescent pregnancy, the spread of sexually transmitted diseases, and sexual violences could all be reduced if sex education was delivered in a more equitable footing.
Sex education is important, especially to young Filipinos who are uneducated about the consequences and responsibilities that it comes when you are sexually active. With the lack of sufficient support on sex ed in Filipino schools, due to the conservative culture of the country, the effects of not having it is being felt in different sectors, especially on teenagers, such as health and crime rates. One of the alarming effects of the lack of sex ed in the country is the increasing rate of teenage pregnancy. On June 25, 2021, former President of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, declared it as a national priority. In 2019, it was recorded that a total of 180 live births among adolescents aged 10 to 19 and only 3% of all live births are fathered by the same age group. The government agencies address this concern by identifying and implementing practical interventions and employment for these young people, and also doing health promotions through media and communication. Another effect of this is the rise of sexually transmitted disease or STD. According to the DOH, the Philippines has become the fastest growing HIV epidemic in Asia and the Pacific. It has become one of 8 countries that account for more than 8 of new HIV infections in the region. In 2019, the number of HIV infections were only 4,300, yet in 2016, it has doubled its number to 10,500. And lastly, sexual violence. It is one of the biggest problems in the country, with the increase of the cases of rape from 1,656 in 2016 to 2,168 in 2020. Sex ed is an essential knowledge that all young Filipinos should be able to have.
Even with the advantage that we provided a while ago, which is reducing the rate of teen pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases, and sexual intimidation, there are parents out there who have raised their concerns regarding the sex education. One of their concerns is the unnecessary of information and knowledge about the sex education or basically sex-related topics to the young ones, something that can impede their innocence and morality. Another concern is related to religion. Though Juping stated that religious commitment and religious activities, active participation in religious activities, can result in sexual abstinence, sex education hinders the influence of the religious and moral ethics when guiding and informing the young ones, the minors, about intimacy. Because of that reason, some believe that sex education is not an essential thing for the young ones to learn and that is more preferable for them to learn once they're an adult, or especially when they are in a relationship, adult relationship. There's been an assumption that sex education programs give students information that may result in sexual intentions and imaginations among them, leading to some consequences. Well, even if there are some concerns and problems, there's still some solutions that we can suggest that can ensure the safety and morality of the students. Some possible suggestions are filtering the information that will be given in a sex education programs, and or observing the students' behavior and reaction while the program is ongoing.
The growing number of teen pregnancies, the risk of sexually transmitted diseases, and sexual assault against young Filipinos are all consequences of the Philippines' lack of effective sex education. Because of the conservative culture in the country where sex is a taboo subject, many young Filipinos are uneducated about it. In conclusion, sex education should be taught correctly in schools without respect to social status. To avoid significant problems, everyone should be aware of the consequences and variables related with sex education. The taboo around discussing sex education must be handled appropriately. Filipinos should speak out more openly about their bodies, safe sex, consent, and other related issues. So, are you in favor of or opposed to programs aimed at educating people about sex education?